Hey everybody, welcome back to Conspiracy Theories and Chill. Come on in, we'll start in just a minute. I've got a show planned out tonight about the media and how it is a weapon used against us, controlled by the CIA, and I'm going to explain why I say that. So come on in, hang out with us. We're going to talk conspiracy for a little while. But this isn't a conspiracy. It's like a lot of different conspiracies. This actually is true. So come on in. We're going to start in just a few seconds. Thanks for coming. Please like and share. And if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel and click the bell and you'll get notified when we post new videos or go live in the future. Thanks for coming by. I'm Sean, and this is Conspiracy Theories and Chill. We are new to doing this on YouTube. This is usually a Facebook show, and that's where our old home was. But I am trying to learn YouTube, and then I'm eventually going to learn how to stream to YouTube and Facebook at the same time. Until then, I'm doing versions of Conspiracy Theories and Chill for my YouTube audience as well, in an effort to grow the audience and build the channel. Hey, Al Angel. Oh, I love this show. Thank you. I love doing it. So that's why I'm doing so many of them now, and why I'm doing them over here on YouTube as well, is because I'm trying to grow the audience and grow the channel. My big goal when I first started this YouTube channel was to get it to 1,000 subscribers, and we are almost there. So you invite your friends. If you're already a subscriber, invite someone else to subscribe. I want to get there. We're at like 850, so we're almost there. But thanks anyone who's here, and everyone who's come by and anyone who's shared. If you shared, you are awesome. I give you an internet virtual high five. But what I wanted to talk about today is something that's been on my mind a lot. And the reason it's been on my mind is because the media is currently attacking my my chosen political candidate. Now, this isn't a politics show, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but I will explain that right now they are doing the same thing they did in 2016. Like, a lot of you are aware that the media is nothing more than controlled propaganda. I'm going to explain why I can prove that. Why I can prove that it's more than that, even. That it's more than controlled propaganda. It is a weapon used against every American every day. And I'm talking about all media, everything you read, see, or hear, including Hollywood. Can I get a little more info on me? All right, I am a stand up comic. That's my original form in entertainment. And that's all I was really until Bernie Sanders inspired me to become more aware worldwide. And then I became more of a political activist. But as far as this show goes, I've been into conspiracies since I could read. Um, it's something I've always been fascinated with. And then as I read more and learned more about conspiracies throughout time and saw so many become true and come to pass, and realized that there is a lot going on behind the curtain, I thought it was important to try to be a voice that expressed that, because there's not enough voices for truth. And since I'm comfortable speaking and have a vast knowledge of conspiracies and what's really going on in the world, I felt like I should use that in my spare time to do a conspiracy show. And it works out good because I really like conspiracies. I follow and look into many, some that I agree with, some that I don't. I just find it entertaining, and I like looking at different people's research, and I like looking at different people's thought processes and the way they think about things. So I felt like that was a really good way to, this is still entertainment, to do entertainment in a different way, because I'm probably going to start incorporating more conspiracy into my act as a comic. And I do have ways you can look at my comedy stuff if you want to. Like I have a, but that's not exactly what I'm doing. And this isn't to promote that. This is something completely different, but you can go to Laughing at Life too. That was my comedy blog that I haven't given enough focus to lately because I've been mostly focusing on this. This is what I'm trying to build up now. And I want to build a following online with this conspiracy show and basically spreading the truth in general. But I hope that explained it. So I'm a stand-up comic who decided to be a truther because there aren't any truthers that I can really count on. The the one that I respect and look up to the most is William Cooper. And if you don't know about William Cooper, I encourage you to learn about him. He was unfortunately killed, I believe, for spreading the truth. He had a very suspicious death, and he was a relatively healthy man. And I don't believe he died of natural causes, and I believe there was more to his death. And I believe it had to do with he had dropped a lot of truth bombs surrounding 9/11. Um, Most significantly, had called out before 9/11 that there would be an event that would be blamed on Osama bin Laden, and was telling his listeners, which he had a pretty vast following, kind of he was the precursor to Alex Jones. And I don't like to make that comparison. I'm only making that comparison in size of audience, not in quality of content. Because William Cooper was 10 times better than Alex Jones. Alex Jones, I believe, is controlled opposition. But I wanted to come and put myself out there, and I got inspired to do that by watching Owen Benjamin videos. Now, I don't know how familiar you are with Owen Benjamin, but Owen Benjamin is a stand-up and was a very successful stand-up. Made had a lot more success in comedy than I ever have, and made a pretty good name for himself. And was a conspiracy comic. Talked about conspiracies in his act. Now he believes that he got banned from comedy for being a conspiracy truther comic. But what he really got banned from comedy and Twitter and social media for is he led a campaign over how he felt like he should be able to say the N word, and was saying it relentlessly for no reason and all the time. And he still does. He feels like he should be able to use that word as freely as he chooses. But he's also now a new truther because he has lost his stand-up comedy career due to, I believe, his stance on the N word. He believes his truth telling, but could be a little bit of both. Could be a little bit of both. But he inspired me in the way that I think he is off-putting, especially since he still has his views where he thinks it's so important that everyone be able to use that word. He turns a lot of people off. He also is very anti-Semitic. Now, I am against Zionism, but I am not against Jews. And I think he is too, but he confuses that and comes off very anti Semitic. So I felt like there needed to be a voice that was liberal, for one. Most of the voices that are for truth are right leaning and conservative. And I happen to be liberal and progressive. So I thought that made me original. And my knowledge of history and conspiracies would be valuable, and all of that. So that was a really long explanation as to who I am. But just a guy trying to build a name for myself on YouTube and Facebook, doing something that I love doing. So hopefully you enjoy it too, and will share it and invite your friends and spread the word about the show and help it grow. But what we're going to focus on today is how the media is a weapon. It is used against you and every American every day, and it is controlled by the CIA and has been openly. You can look this up since Operation Mockingbird in the 50s. Operation Mockingbird is a CIA plot that was exposed. There's even congressional hearings. You can listen to the director of the CIA testify to Congress that this is real and that they inserted CIA agents into every media organization. And when I say every media organization, what I mean is every media organization. I'm talking about print media, television media, Hollywood, all of it. They inserted the CIA, inserted agents in order to control the narrative and also to predictively program. This is real. And like I said, you can look it up. I do a conspiracy theory show. Sometimes we may talk about something I can't prove. Today, everything I'm going to talk about, you can verify and look up for yourself. So, um, the CIA infiltrated the media in the 50s. Now, of course, they say that they don't anymore, but I find it interesting that Obama legalized propaganda to be used against the American people. It's legal to use propaganda against the American people through the media. Now, I don't know if you are aware of that, and I especially don't know if you are aware that it was Obama that signed that into law. But why would they be doing things like that if it wasn't still being used? You see what I'm saying? And people like Anderson Cooper have ties to the CIA. Anderson Cooper was an intern at the CIA, and they say that once you're connected to the CIA, you always are. And people want to argue, well, he was just an intern. Okay. But I think if you're connected to the CIA, you're connected to the CIA. And the media has a history of being connected to the CIA. And even if you don't believe me about the stated purpose of what Operation Mockingbird was all about, to make the media a complete misinformation campaign, then maybe you'll believe the director of the CIA when he testified to Congress that the misinformation will know we will know our misinformation campaign is complete when everything the average American believes is false. That is the purpose of Operation Mockingbird from the director of the CIA. And that was something that was said in 1981, I believe. Not that long ago. So now I've established that the CIA infiltrated the media and they're open about it and they admit to it in the 50s through Operation Mockingbird. So now that we've established that they control the media and that is openly admitted to, who are the CIA? Well, the CIA's entire purpose is misinformation and propaganda to use against foreign governments and our own people. That's another thing you can look up for yourself. Their whole purpose is to spread lies and control the narrative. But where did they originate? Well, there was an operation after World War II called Operation Paperclip. And we brought in hundreds, I think it's 200 something, German scientists, war criminals, Nazi German scientists from the Nazi regime who were conducting all kinds of bizarre experiments that ended up continuing over here in America. This is where the crop of people were brought in, and that's where the CIA was founded during Operation Paperclip. So a lot of this stuff, this propaganda and this population control through the media, that is stuff that's been continued since Hitler. And it got continued because we brought it all over here and then encouraged it and put it into practice in our own country with the same people. So that's the roots of the CIA and the purpose of the CIA. So what's dangerous about what they're doing? How is it a weapon? Well, it's a weapon because news is no longer news, and it happens slowly and gradually over time. I hate to give this term any weight because of who is responsible for coining it, but fake news is a real thing. News on TV is fake. It's a controlled narrative. The only difference between the channels is whether they're left or right leaning. Most are left leaning, but that's the only difference. You're going to get the same narrative. It's just what flavor of it do you want? Do you want it a little bit in the middle? Do you want it all the way to the left? Do you want it crazy to the right? That's the only choices you get. You're going to get the same information unless you seek out independent media like shows like this. Even though this is a baby, I hope it grows, and it has all the possibility to. So you support that, and that's where you get your truth. Unfortunately, you can't find it on your cable box. It's been suppressed and taken off of there, and they're trying to take it off of the internet. It's going to get harder and harder and harder to find real truth unless we start actually defending it. If we don't start rising up and defending it, when you see stuff like Google announcing that they're going to suppress anything conspiratorial, and YouTube going along with that and suppressing conspiracy content, such as mine, you know, just because you're not being personally attacked at the moment, just because they're coming for conspiracy people right now and not you, doesn't mean they're not going to eventually come for you. Don't you see how that works? You know, you have to defend freedom of speech every opportunity you get to defend freedom of speech. And truth should always be defended. We should be like Kennedy had a speech, one of his most famous speeches, one of the speeches that I think got him killed, where he talked about how important journalism was to being the fourth wall of our government and holding everyone accountable, and how dangerous it would be, and how it was a real threat of it becoming this way, and how dangerous it would be if the media ever lost that power and that status as being the fourth wall that holds everyone accountable and keeps everyone in check. Now that they've been bought out, and if you don't know this, if you're wondering at this point, well, Sean, how would they control the media? How could they control everything? Every movie I watch, everything I read, everything I see on the news, how is that all being controlled by the CIA? Well, it's not as hard as you think when you play into fact that all media is owned by just six corporations. And that was made possible by Bill Clinton. He made that monopoly on information possible. So far, two Democrat presidents are responsible for a lot of propaganda and misinformation being used on the American people, and also for allowing there to be a huge monopoly on the American people. So, what are we learning from that so far? Hopefully, we're learning that they are not Democrats, and then there's no such thing as Democrat and Republican, and they are establishment tools. And if you really look back over history, especially since the death of John F. Kennedy, the assassination of John F. Kennedy is when they first took control of the executive branch. You haven't seen a real president since then. A lot of people think Trump is, and Trump is different only in the sense that Trump was never supposed to win. But I don't believe Trump's not on board. I believe they got Trump on board right away, and I don't believe he's taking on any establishment. And as much as I would like to believe the things that the QAnon and the Trump followers believe, I just can't. I'd like to because he's the president. I'd like to believe they're right, and I'd like to believe he's taking on the deep state. But he has the same amount of holes in his head as he did when he took office. It's hard for me to believe that he's actually pushing against the deep state when I know what the deep state is capable of. But all of this stuff I'm saying to prove that you're being manipulated. And so far, everything I've said you can look up. Look up Operation Mockingbird for yourself. I encourage you to. Look up whether or not Obama made it legal to use propaganda against American citizens. Look up whether or not all mainstream media is owned by six corporations. So far, everything I've said to you is true. The next stuff I'm going to say to you, you can look up for yourself and verify it's true too. The talking heads like Rachel Maddow and Sean Hannity are not real journalists. I don't care how decorated and how many degrees they have between them even. They're not real journalists. They are paid, well paid. Rachel Maddow, I believe, makes $3 million an episode. They are well paid to push an establishment narrative. And you need to understand that that's all they are. And they're basically actors. They're actors that are good at speaking and good at talking, good at drawing people in. And that's all they are. Real journalists died. Real journalists and journalism died a long time ago. We have it still, but we don't protect it and it's dying off. Like Julian Assange is a real journalist, but look what's happening to him. And a lot of the Q people, the QAnon believers, believe that him being in American custody is a good thing, that he's going to be a star witness in this deep state takedown. And again, I'd love for them to be right, but I see it as a huge blow to freedom of speech and a huge blow to real journalism. And also a huge blow to anyone, any whistleblower or truth teller that is looking for a place, an outlet to release their information in a way that people will actually see it. WikiLeaks is that organization. And if you don't know this about WikiLeaks and you've been propagandized by the media to believe that they are a Russian deceitful organization, they have never, in their over 10-year existence, ever published anything that was not true. They have never had to apologize or retract a single item in their entire existence. And nothing that they've published, including the Democratic emails, the Podesta leaks, and all of that, has ever been disputed as being false. It's just been disputed as being dangerous to people in power. And it is. And that's what the problem is. It has nothing to do with him being Russian or a propagandist or spreading false information, because nothing he's spreading is false. It's just that the things that he is spreading, the information that he's releasing, has reached a large audience, and that information is valuable and dangerous to very powerful people. That's what Julian Assange has done wrong. Now, there was a time before the CIA and the powers that be that really pulled the strings realized the power of the media and took it over, where real journalism existed. So when people turn on their TV today and expect it to be there, you can see why they expect that, because that is what they're used to seeing when they turn on the news is news. That's what it used to be. There was a time when it was, but it died off. And and like I told you, they own the media, all of it. So they own movies too. And you can look up movies where they flat out tell you, they always tell you, they have to tell you. It's part of what makes their black magic work. They always lay their plan right out in front of you. But what's the name of the movie? I can't think of it right now. But the reporter screaming at the TV, talking about how nothing's real anymore and you can't believe what you're being told and nobody's waking up and everybody's just accepting it. And he goes on and on and on. He lays all kinds of truth out, and they always do that. Just like long before Edward Snowden ever came out and told you that the NSA was surveilling you and looking into everything and looking at your documents and tracking you, there was the movie Enemy of the State with Will Smith. That movie came out in like 93, and they showed all of that in that movie. It's predictive programming. They always prepare you for it and get you ready for it. And I'm sure if I took the time, I could find a lot more examples than just that movie of that same predictive programming. But there's always predictive programming. Just like there was a ton of predictive programming about 9/11, which is the only reason why someone like Will Cooper was able to be as prophetic as he was about 9/11 is because it's always right there. And if you study history and you study what's actually going on, you can see the signs, and it always lines up right in order. They do everything from a pattern and a plan. They've had the plan out in in the open from the beginning, and like I said, they always do. So to allow what's happening is at a certain point, and at least in their perspective and the way that they look at it, and by they I'm talking about the Illuminati, New World Order, powers that be, whatever you want to call them. I don't want to trip up too much over their name, but the real power behind the scenes, the people pulling the strings and really ruling society, that's who we're talking about here. And they don't they don't care if you understand it. They laid it out there, and they consider your silence to be your consent. So the truth is there. You know, I always say, and especially true and relevant with this media discussion today, that we are living in the age of deceit. Everything's a lie. You're constantly barraged with an onslaught of lies, and truth is being buried and hidden, and it's getting harder and harder to find. And it's something that you have to seek out on your own. And it's all by design. It's all by design. Now, the people who pull the strings are religious. Whether you are or not doesn't matter because they are. So it's important to understand what they believe to understand what they're planning and what they're capable of. Until you understand that, it does seem unbelievable. It would be like, oh, why would they do this? Why are they pushing American civilization itself towards the edge of the cliff while they tell everybody with their fake media that everything's okay? When you can see the walls crumbling down around you if you just know where to look. But the media's whole purpose is to make sure that you don't ever see that, and that you don't see how the walls are closing in on you, and how everything is getting to a point where you're not going to be able to fight back, and you never even realized anything was wrong. And that's all by design. And it's this weapon of the media, this propaganda machine, this beast. American propaganda machine, the mainstream media, is a beast, and it is incredibly powerful. It's hard almost to be mad at people that are asleep, whatever you want to call them. That people call them sheep. You'll call them all kinds of nasty names, but they are brainwashed. Yes. I don't blame them for that, though. You can't even get a real education in this country. You are indoctrinated since kindergarten to be a good worker. That's all they care about. Real knowledge is not encouraged. What's encouraged is your ability to regurgitate facts that you're given and on a test. That's what's encouraged and graded upon. Your ability to repeat tasks. They're just training you to be a worker, giving you enough math, enough science, enough of this and that in order to be a productive member of society. But they don't encourage free thought, assassination, to discourage anyone from listening to people like me. People like me were talking about that being an assassination, not the type you're told, where Lee Harvey Oswald by himself killed John F. Kennedy, but an assassination coup and a plan with an inside plan way back then. Oh, I've just been told you're experiencing buffering. I am going to work on getting boosters and certain things to make this better, because YouTube apparently is a little bit more demanding than Facebook as far as what you need to do a successful live feed. But let me know in the comments anything you guys are talking about. I don't want this to just be where I ramble on. I like to feed off the comments and talk about what you guys want to. We can get into whatever you want. I have more notes though, because now, how are they using the media as a weapon? That's another thing you might be asking me right now. Well, another program that is admitted and you can look up is MK Ultra, started around the same time by the same people, the CIA. Now, MK Ultra's entire purpose was how to manipulate and control the human mind and humans in general, uh, in all kinds of different ways, through drugs, through manipulation, through mind control, through propaganda, through misinformation, different ways. And these two programs intertwine and feed off of each other. And they still exist to this day. Now, both of these programs they ended up having to admit they were doing, but what they don't admit is that they continue to this day. And of course they do. You're not going to perfect mind control. And a lot of people will tell you, well, they never did. But that research, that practice, those practices were going on long before the foundation of the CIA. As I already told you, they were going on under Hitler, and they'd already been perfected. So when it came to America, they already knew what they were doing. They already knew how to control and create brainwashed slaves. And they create them for all kinds of purposes. Now, they're not just to be assassins, but they are. If you look into the MK Ultra documents, which they've had to release declassified documents admitting to the MK Ultra program, which is why you can also look that up too. But if you do, what you'll find is they admit that there was different reasons and different results they were looking for with these mind control subjects. They were assassins, they were seductresses, they were entertainers, they were all kinds of people. People that they could insert into any situation to be controlled and to be sleeper agents, to be activated at a later time to do whatever purpose they needed. Now, a lot of people believe that a lot of these celebrities are MK Ultra victims, and I believe that is highly likely. You know, I definitely believe that to achieve any kind of fame in Hollywood or music, you do have to be involved with the powers that be. You do, in a sense, sell your soul. And they all say it, they all admit to it, they all talk about it, that they sold their soul to get where they are. You'll hear a lot of them say that. And, they could be saying it from an artistic integrity place, or they could be saying it from a literal place. But they are all in unison and agreement that they sold their soul to get where they are. Now, to what degree they sold it and to what degree that means, you can throw that up in the air. But you can look up examples of these people having breakdowns that could easily be described as MK Ultra snaps. Now, when you create a monarch slave, I don't want to get too far off the media here, so someone remind me later that I am talking about the media. But when you create a monarch slave, you break their mind, you cause a dissociative snap, and then you insert a personality that you can use for whatever reasons you need, and that person and that personality will be separate from the other and will have no memories of what, when it switches back to their dominant personality, will have no memories of what they've done while you were controlling them. And but this condition, being dissociative, has a downside to it that you sometimes break your programming, you sometimes slip your programming, you sometimes snap, and you have breakdowns. Right? It's just part of being the dissociative personality that they had to make you into in order to insert a personality into you. Hey, Miss Imaginary, welcome back. Yeah, the Illuminati definitely owns Hollywood. We've been talking about that in tonight's feed. This whole feed is about how the media, the entire media, is controlled by the CIA. The reason why I'm focusing on the CIA and not the Illuminati is because you can look up and verify the CIA angle. And I want to wake up as many people as possible. So I like to make these shows as accessible to people as I can, to anyone, not just people that are woke or whatever you want to call it, and people that understand that the Illuminati or whatever you call them is who actually controls literally everything around you. And when you really start to understand that, you see evidence of it everywhere. It's clear as day. It's just like that movie They Live, where he gets the special glasses and you put them on, and you can see that everything is programming and everything is fake. It's literally true, you know. And movies like that, they get made to rub it in your face. They have to tell you. Look up, look into the rules of the Illuminati. It's in their own rules that they have to put it out there in the open, and then your silence is your consent. They have to tell you. It's part of it. It's part of what makes it work. Miss Imaginary says facial freezes by MK Ultra. Never considered that. There's all kinds of things that happen. One person that's very interesting to look at. I'll give you a few. Britney Spears. Look up a lot. There's a lot of examples, and I think a lot of the Disney kids are MK Ultra victims. Britney Spears, if you did not know, was a Disney kid. Anyway, there's a lot of examples, not just her going crazy and shaving her head or, flashing when she's getting out of a car, but examples of her snapping mid interviews. You can look at it and watch her even switch personalities in the middle of interviews. Another one that's interesting to look up is Katy Perry. Now, there is even a video that you can look up of Katy Perry on stage where all of a sudden in the middle of a performance, she just stops and says, "Master, I don't feel very good," and collapses. Now, it could be part of an act, could be just to draw up, get people to share it on YouTube and get her name out there. But what does Katy Perry need people to do that for? There's an interview with Katy Perry where she's basically bawling, telling the interviewer that she just wants to go back to being a regular person, that she just wants to be Kate Perry. She doesn't want this anymore. She just wants to go back to the way she was before, but they won't allow her. Who's they? Who do you think she's talking about? These people have controllers. They've given up their freedom. In more ways than just giving up their privacy, because I can't even imagine being a celebrity and having the paparazzi filming me every minute of every day. Think about how many magazines are in your grocery store checkout lane. And this is going to tie into the media control as well. That is all distractions, but the celebrities themselves are tools of distraction. They sign away their life to have it documented 24 hours a day, everything they go through, so that the cattle, the society, can chew on that knowledge and chew on that, gossip and information instead of real information and real knowledge, and keep themselves busy. It's their entire purpose. And they give that up for fame and, success beyond anything they probably ever could have accomplished on their own. But they've given up a lot to get that as well. And you can see a lot of them, not just the ones that have MK Ultra snaps. Like another good example of an MK Ultra snapper that is easy to see is Kanye West. Kanye West has a lot of programming slips, and you'll see them disappear. They'll do something crazy, then they'll disappear into rehab or wherever they're going to go. And when they come back, oh, everything's sunshines and flowers. Well, they've been reprogrammed. They've been taken back in and been reprogrammed so that they could be useful still. And when they're not useful anymore, when they can't be made useful anymore, they cease to be famous. Like Amanda Bynes, Lindsay Lohan, a couple other really good examples that you can look up. A lot of good examples of them having MK Ultra snaps and breakdowns. But the CIA is a huge part of that. And The CIA is also the misinformation and propaganda arm of the Illuminati, of the powers that be. They don't work for the American government. Their established purpose is to propagandize everyone, not just foreign nations, but Americans as well. They don't work for you. They work against you. Their entire purpose is to misinform and misdirect you. They've been on record saying that their mission will be complete when everything that you believe is false. You can't get truth from the news. The news is a weapon, and MK Ultra methods are used in the news. Think about the beginning of any news program. You are berated with hypnotic imagery. There's all kinds of spirals and different things rotating and coming at you on the screen. That is all preparing your mind for a information dump of the garbage they're getting ready to pump into your head as truth. And, you know, they've been busted many times selling you complete lies, but the retraction is never a big story. Like, most people aren't aware that a lot of those ISIS videos that you saw, those terrifying ISIS videos, were fake. And the CIA was busted, being exposed, having spent hundreds of millions of dollars producing and putting out and airing on television as news, as real, fake propaganda videos. And they've had to admit that. You can look that up too. They've had to admit that they did that. That happened. That's a fact. But is it common knowledge that it happened? Did you is that been promoted as much as the fake videos were promoted? They were made a huge deal of. Was the fact that they were fake made a huge deal of? No, that was swept under the rug. They've admitted it, but most people don't even know. Your average person doesn't even know. It's not like Rachel Maddow got upset about that. She went on for years carrying on as a crazy conspiracy theorist about Russia, Russia, Russia. Every show's about Russia and how this is going to be this investigation is going to blow the lid off of everything and take down Donald Trump. And now that it's been exposed to have found nothing and to been the garbage made up lie that it always was, she's acting like all that never happened and that there is actually enough in the Mueller report to, impeach Trump. What I've read in the Mueller report, some of it is embarrassing to Trump and it shows a high level of incompetence. But isn't that something we already knew? Didn't we already know that this man is not presidential? We can't be surprised to have found that out, right? We elected a reality TV star as the president of our country. So it can't be a surprise that this man and his children and his family are capable of making all these mistakes. I don't see how that's surprising. But they think that's a huge deal now, and that's enough proof. And she's satisfied enough with the little bit of Russia involvement that Mueller was able to drum up, like some memes and some, a couple $1,000s worth of Facebook and Google ads. That's how they influenced our election. Dude, I know people that personally did more than that. Personally did more than that. I made more memes than Russia did. Personally. I didn't invest that much money, but I know people that did. People campaigned heavily against Hillary. Hillary was a very unpopular candidate. This is something that they won't admit and why Russiagate existed in the first place. The media tried to crown Hillary Clinton, tried to convince the American public that Hillary Clinton was something that they wanted when most people didn't. And when it came time for proof to be in the pudding, they hadn't done a good enough job convincing everybody to vote for her. What they hadn't done a good enough job of, it, in my opinion, was building fear against Donald Trump. Not that they didn't try their ass off. They tried their ass off to make Donald Trump the biggest boogeyman they possibly could, which was his entire purpose. You know, which associate of Donald Trump's was it that just had a congressional hearing and had to admit or did admit that Donald Trump had confided in him that his campaign would be the best infomercial of all time, the most successful infomercial of all time. That's all he wanted. He wanted to build his brand and build his name and make money off this merchandise that's made in China. Isn't that hilarious? Make America Great Again hats made in China and no one blinks an eye. These fucking dumbass people wear those hats so proudly and they're ugly fucking hats. I'm not even going to get into whether or not they're racist. They are ugly hats. They just are. They, there's not an attractive hat. They're not even well made and they're made in China. He can't even make his Make American Great Again hat in America. He doesn't make most of his products in America. He makes them in China and Mexico. All he talks about is how important he thinks American business is, and all he shows you is that he goes around it as much and as often as he possibly can. He's a liar, but people that know that already know it, and the people that don't know that refuse to see it. But he's just a boogeyman. He was a fake opponent for Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton is supposed to be the president. The powers that be wanted Hillary Clinton to be president. That was what was supposed to happen. The people didn't do what we normally do. Normally, we are very easy to control. Normally, we are very controllable, and the media has never had a problem keeping us in line and getting the result out of us that they want. This time, though, enough of us stood our ground and refused to give in to the fear tactic that they use against us every 4 years. We didn't back down, and they weren't expecting that. They were actually betting against that. They were betting that we would back down because we had flat out told them we weren't going to. And they knew it was enough of us to derail their entire plan. They just didn't think we were serious. And when they found out we were on election night, they had to come up with some reason why Hillary Clinton, who's supposed to be leading the polls against Donald Trump by double figures, lost. How did they lie to you so badly? How were their polls so inaccurate? How was everything that they had told you wrong? Well, it had to be somebody besides them. It couldn't be that they gave Donald Trump tons of free publicity, built him up as a candidate in the first place, and were responsible for selling him to every American as their new anti-establishment leader. Is all they did was build him up as that, and they're completely responsible for Donald Trump's presidency. But it had to be Russia, right? Couldn't have been them. They can't be part of the establishment power structure, can they? Miss Imaginary says never saw any fake ISIS videos. Look it up. I will try to add a link. I'm gonna try because I gotta go to work today too. So I will look for it and try to tag a link in this after the video of some coverage. It got very little coverage, but there was a lot of the ISIS videos, with the black outfits and some of the extreme beheadings and things that we saw and were released on YouTube and other media outlets were fake and produced by the CIA. I'm not saying that all ISIS videos are. I'm saying that they were busted over quite a few. And I'll try to link some more information about that so that it's easier for you to look into. But I'm trying to keep everything tonight into things that are easily verifiable, and that is one of them. Miss Imaginary says between Trump and Hillary, we had no real choice for president. No, you didn't. And what they expected you to do was to pick the woman. And that's the only way they sold her to you too. They didn't. You notice how they didn't even try to sell her as they did sometimes, but mostly it was vote for her as the first woman president. How great's it going to be to elect the first woman president? Don't you want to elect a woman president? I would love to elect a woman president. I would love to have a female representative as our world representative and as a world leader, but I want her to be qualified. Is that too much to ask? We are electing a president, and they're trying to sell this crook. Hillary Clinton is a criminal. The only reason why she's not in prison is because she's part of the power elite. she should be in prison 100-fold. She was a regular person. If she wasn't as protected as she is, she would be probably executed for treason at this point. Definitely. She's responsible for so much and has a laundry list of scandals attached to her name and a kill list that's close to 60 people long, if not longer than 60 people. They tried to push that person into the Oval Office. Isn't that amazing? That's amazing. And the whole reason was over a deal that her and Obama made when Obama was running for president. When to get her to drop out, they had agreed that she would be the next president. She would serve as Secretary of State and she would get to be the next president. She would be the next nominee if she would step aside for Barack. I 100% am convinced that that's what their secret meeting was about. And that's why the DNC was hers from the beginning. That's proven too. You'll see a lot of people, oh, they didn't have control of the whole DNC. Well, yes, they did. They had complete control of their pocketbook as well. So it's all proven and on record. And again, in this time of information, to not know those things is, either to just innocently not know or to be willfully ignorant. If you're coming out against it as, oh, that's ridiculous, that's stupid, and you haven't looked at the proof, I think that's ridiculous. I think that's what's stupid. Not only stupid, it's dangerous because there is tons of proof. Just like, people would shrug off and disregard Pizzagate, and the media was instantly used as a weapon to shut that up. Whether or not there was a sex ring running out of Comet Pizza, sex rings are real and exist. And instead of using that as an opportunity to bring attention and focus to the fact that that is a real threat in this country, they used it as an opportunity to make that look ridiculous. And then when huge sex rings are busted, like that huge sex ring that was busted out of the Philadelphia church, was it Philadelphia or Pennsylvania? Starts with a P, but involved hundreds of priests and thousands of victims. They rushed that under the rug. How many of you, just as an example, how many of you currently here even heard about that story before now? I just want to run a temporary experiment because most of you are probably pretty well informed. And if you hadn't heard about that church, and I could be getting the town wrong, but it was not that long ago, maybe a month or two ago, and it was involved hundreds, like 300 something priests, thousands of victims, and 80 churches in this area were connected in this sex ring, the pedophilia ring. Al Angel says never heard of that story. Isn't that fairly interesting? Doesn't that play into what I'm saying? The media does not inform you. The media is not, that's not their purpose anymore. And that is all provable and out in the open. You can look up everything I've said to you tonight or today. It's not tonight. I don't know I usually do this in the evenings, but it's daytime outside. There's the sun. But every time I've said everything I've said to you today, you can look up and verify for yourself. And I hope that I've convinced at least one person that the media is a weapon that is used against you and used against everyone. And I've convinced you to turn it off, to seek truth on your own. Maybe you stumbled across this show. Seek out things like this, and independent media and real news and real journalism, and you will see the difference not only in what you learn and hear about the world, but in how you feel. You are being mentally manipulated by your television. It is called television programming for a reason. Everything that we have, every cool little gadget, is weaponized against us before we ever get it. The government has been open and honest that they are 50 years ahead of us technologically. Everything that we have, they have weaponized long before we ever got it. I broke my cigarette. I ashed it too hard. Maybe I should smoke the rest of it like a cowboy, without the filter. So I busted the filter off of it. Let me see what cowboys do. Ooh, cowboys are badasses. That's really harsh. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I need the filter. I'm a little soft, but cowboys must have been tough. Either that or they didn't mind coughing and gagging all the time. But they didn't live very long either, though. You think about it. And this is incredibly stupid. This is something that should be illegal. Marijuana should be legal and cigarettes should be illegal. Robert Bish asks a very good question. Who sits at the head of the table at Bilderberg? I would imagine someone from an elite bloodline family, like a Rothschild or a royal. The royal family is an elite bloodline that has a lot of power and influence in the world. A lot of people aren't really aware that Britain actually controls the United States and still actually rules and has ownership of the United States. So we never really actually won our independence. It was more of an agreement, but that's a whole tale for another time. Like, Benjamin Franklin was actually a British spy the entire time, and he's on the $100 bill. Isn't that kind of weird? He did a lot for us too, but was a British spy for the entire time. But Bilderberg, I'm glad you brought that up. For anyone that doesn't know, Bilderberg is one of the secret societies that controls our world. It's actually one of the ways for them to meet. It's a meeting that happens every year among only selected people, and some of those selected people are people from the media. And those people that are selected, think about it. Like, there were times when Dan Rather would be invited to Bilderberg. Now, why in the hell would Dan Rather be in the same room, in the same opinion panels as Bill Gates and, people from the Rothschilds family, people from the Amazon, like Jeff Bezos type people, all the richest people in the world? Why would Dan Rather also be in there planning future events? Now they're open that what they're planning is what's going to take place over the next year. Now, to what level, they don't fully say, but they admit that they're planning basically the events of the world and business and the economy and all the way down to population, because they have lots of debates over population. That's one of Bill Gates' biggest pet projects is depopulation. So they discuss all of these issues and they have media people there with them. And I believe that the reason why they have the media there is to explain to them how they are going to present these stories to us, how they are going to play their part. They are planning out everything behind the scenes. They manipulate and control our entire world, these handful of people. And when I say handful, I mean in the spectrum of everything. There's what, 7.7 billion of us, and probably a couple hundred people control all of that and all of the resources on this planet. And we could take it back, but they have invested a ton of time and effort and scientific research and study and money into keeping us as divided and as dumbed down and as misinformed as possible, to make us ineffective, to make it to where we can never really use our numbers to do any real damage to them, that we can never unite in a way that would ever cause a real threat. And it's why when you see things or you see examples of us uniting in a way that would cause a real threat, like what you're seeing in France right now with the yellow vest protests, The media doesn't report that at all, and when they do report it, they treat it as nothing but violent little bitty protests. When they don't tell you is that it is an enormous protest and it is actually a civil, mostly civil movement. And I think a lot of the burning cars and the violence and the busted windows are being done by provocateurs. And they always send provocateurs into any peaceful movement, any protest to cause an uproar. And there's tons of examples of that. There are companies that exist for that purpose alone. They were hired during the elections to send people in to cause shit at Trump events. A lot of those instances of violence and things that happened at Trump events were staged events. People sent in to cause shit. Robert says the royals and the Vatican and the Jews. I would say Zionists, but you're right. The Zionists, the most powerful Zionists in the world would be can, at the head of the table, royal bloodline and the Pope. I can totally get on board with all of that. The Pope is first off, the Pope is not who really runs the Catholic Church, but the Black Pope is. Anyhow, the Catholic Church is supposed to be and in building towards being the one world religion. You know, when they talk about the New World Order, and you can look up tons of politicians talking about the New World Order, not just American politicians. But when they talk about that, they talk about a one world government, a one world society, one world rule, and a one world religion. That one world religion is the Catholic Church. And the Catholic Church not only has an immense amount of wealth, they have an immense amount of power and influence on a global scale. Much more than a church, you know, and that is extremely suspicious, to say the least, if you don't want to follow me down the rabbit hole that the Pope is and the Catholic Church are far more powerful. They are actually the present day representation of Rome. Rome never fell. It went underground. The Roman Empire went underground and spread across the world. We are Mystery Babylon. When you hear this Mystery Babylon spoken about, that refers to us. I think that is clear as day. But let me see what you guys are saying. Miss Imaginary says, I only occasionally watch the news because I do sense a lot of mistrust. I pay attention to what the mainstream media is saying, but I have to, because I try to combat that misinformation as much as I possibly can, as much as I can get people to listen, because it's very dangerous and it is holding back society. And that's its entire purpose. The mainstream media is a weapon used against us, not only to misinform us about everything, but to keep us sedated, dumbed down, and controlled, and happy. Like a lot of the media and a lot of the shows are to make you happy with what you have. And that's a lot of the message that they push. You know, they convince you from a very young age that every American is just basically a temporarily inconvenienced millionaire. You all have the possibility and to be rich and famous and all of this stuff. And they tell you from a very little age you can be anything you want if you just put your mind to it. When the truth is, to be anything you want, you literally have to be extremely lucky or extremely well connected in this world. You can obtain a certain level of success through hard work, but really you need luck or influence. You're either very good at networking and connecting yourself with powerful people who can put you in touch with more powerful people and give you those avenues. And the most successful people obtain that much power and influence through secret societies, such as Skull and Bones, the Freemasons, um, Bohemian Grove. It goes on and on and on. But they're all interconnected and intertwined, and a lot of them are members of many of them, multiple organizations. But I want to go ahead and thank everyone that stopped by for the live feed. Thank you so much for all of your comments. I feed off the comments. So anytime you're here, comment all you want. I love to respond to them, and because I want to make a show that you guys like, because I want you to want to come back and keep watching it. I want it to grow. So share this with your friends and help spread the show if you enjoy it and would like to see it grow into something new and bigger. I would like it to be a whole network. My goal is to make my YouTube channel into a complete news source. I want to, when I get more time and available to me and am able to be more successful at this and get it grown to where I can get an income coming in, I want to get it to a point where I can do news, entertainment, entertainment shows like this that are still informative, and then even sports, etc., and in a way that's 100% factual, reliable news. That's what I would like it to be, like a TYT if TYT never sold out. Thank you, Al Angel. I enjoy doing it. So if you enjoy it, like I said, share it and spread the news about the show. Tell your friends about it and get people excited. Uh, Help me reach my little short-term goal of 1,000 subscribers. And thanks again for watching. I appreciate all of you. I'll see you on the next episode. I wish I could tell you when that's going to be. But right now on YouTube, I'm experimenting with the format and I'm experimenting with what times work best. Like yesterday, I went live at around 2:30. Today, I went at 12:30. I'm gonna play with evenings. I'm trying to find a good time that works with my work schedule and works with the viewer's schedule. So if you have any input on when would be a good day and time for the show for you, go ahead and let me know because like I said, I want to make it as popular as possible and as accessible as possible so that it can become more popular. But thank you guys for watching, and like I said, I'll see you next time.